वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां दयाकरं दयाकारं दान्तं धर्मप्रवर्तकं प्रणमामि दयानन्दं मदाचार्यवरं परम्. नैव वाचा न मनसा प्राप्तुं शक्यो न चक्षुषा अस्तीति ब्रुवतोऽन्यत्र कथं तदुपलभ्यते. So, this verse and the next verse are very, very important because they are the teachings of the Kathopanishad culled into just 2 verses. Very, very important. Bhashya is also very, very important, and the Bhashya is a little complicated. You are forewarned. Why is the Bhashya complicated? Because it assumes that we know all the prakriyas to know the Atma. We know the prakriyas, and so it assumes that, and so if we neither know Sanskrit nor do we know the prakriyas, the methodologies, then it will become a little bit complicated. But doesn't matter, everything will be explained. So here we go back to the question, the Purva Paksha that was kind of raised, and from the, what is this Paksha? Nastikavada. So Nastikavada means there is na asti, because what? I have resolved the buddhi, I have resolved the mind. What is there? Zero, nothing is there. And to that we have to remind people, how is Brahman known? Through Shastra Pramana, Shabda Pramana. Shabda Pramana, the words of the Shastra as a means of knowledge, will bless when? When will they bless? When you receive them. That's how it will bless. If you don't go halfway to meet the pramana will just dissipate. It will just go. So you have to greet the pramana. You have to meet the pramana. And greeting the pramana, meeting the pramana means what? Accepting that it is there. Accepting that whatever the Shastra says must be true. Why? Because I have no way of affirming Brahman. I have no way of denying Brahman either by myself. So therefore I have to be in a place of receptivity and trust. And the same person who says, I don't trust anybody in the whole universe, has to dare to trust again. And that trust is called Shraddha. And if that trust is there, then that which is not grihyate, which is not gained through what? Na upalabhate vacha. Vacha means what? Speech. Speech, I mean, you can describe Brahman till the cows come home, but nobody understands until and unless one is receptive to the pramana, until and unless the Shastra is converted into a pramana by the Guru, by the teacher, and then the student accepts that pramana. Naiva vacha na chakshusha, not by the eyes. Why? Because the eyes means it cancels out all the other indriyas. If it's not available for the eyes, it's not available for any other sense organ for objectification. And then what's the next one? Naiva vacha, praptam na manasa. Third one, na manasa. Na vacha, na chakshusha, na manasa. So, manas means buddhi is also negated. So, what is manas? Mind. So, by the mind you cannot talk about Brahman. Brahman is not a product of the mind. If Brahman is a product of the mind, God only help us. And since we are non-separate from God, there is no help possible. Okay, because if Brahman is a product of the mind, how many Brahmans will be there? As many heads are there, because in each head, Brahman will be in a particular form. That's the idea, and already that is already taking place. In each head there is a concept of God, correct? And each and every head. And then in each head there is that belief in that particular concept and disbelief in certain other concepts. That's already there. What did we get out of this? Not moksha, we got multiplicity. And so therefore we have to understand that this works only through the operation of pramana, because it is not available for the eyes, for the sense organs, for the words, for the mind. Words means Shabda Pramana is in the form of words, yes, properly handled. So Vacha here means Kevala Tarkika Vak. So the Vak that is belonging to the Tarkika or these Nayayikas, that kind of Vak, argumentative, deductive, inductive speech is of no use to understand Brahmasvarupa as myself. And so therefore none of these will help. What will help is a Tivra Ichha, Tivra Mumuksha. So a great desire to understand, a yearning to understand must be there, and for that yearning to be fulfilled, I have to meet that the object of the yearning, which is the Shastra, which is the object of Shravanam. That Shastra, I have to meet it halfway by opening the heart and letting the knowledge in. There is one text, Bodhasara is its name, and there is one section called Shishya Viveka, not Shishya's Viveka, but what kinds of Shishyas are there? That kind of Viveka. Shishya is the subject matter of which Viveka? That is the Viveka here. And so Shishya Viveka, like how to discriminate between different kinds of students. So he says the students are like lotus buds, and the Shastra is like the sunlight. Exposed to the sunlight, the lotus blooms. The student's heart is like the lotus, which should bloom because it is full of Shraddha. But here there are some decoy lotuses in this particular verse. Yeah, what are they? Made of clay. Clay lotus bud is there. Stone lotus bud is there. Wood lotus bud is there, and they are all painted to look alike. All right, and then finally the real unpainted lotus bud is also there. Real means don't say Satyam Jnanam Anantam lotus. No, we are just talking of in this example. Compared to the clay lotus, the stone lotus and the wooden lotus, we have the actual lotus. And they are all there. Who are they? 4 kinds of Shishyas. And the teacher teaches each of them different things or the same thing? Same thing the teacher teaches, and the clay lotus, because it is unbaked clay, then sinks to the bottom, glub, 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 and disintegrates. So what kind of a buddhi is that? It's a buddhi full of tamas, kapha, we say in Ayurveda, full of kapha, and this kind of a buddhi sinks to the bottom, does not know how to open. Clay lotus, glub, 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 gone. And also it will leave out some little pieces of clay, dissolving clay, you see. And then what else? That student's buddhi gets destroyed. And then what else is there? Wooden lotus. Rajasic mind, and what does it do? It just goes here, bobs up and down, and then cannot stay in one place. bobs up and down, goes here, goes there, of course cannot open. And the stone lotus, of course, sinks, but it's also more inflexible than the clay lotus, which at least had the decency to melt. This one doesn't even melt. And so what is left? The actual lotus which finally blooms. So here there are these, to illustrate the varying degrees of or the lack of receptivity. Shraddha is trust pending understanding. In the first portion of the Veda also we have Shraddha. What kind of Shraddha is it? Only Shraddha. There is no verification. It's all a series of beliefs for which cannot be verified. There is Svarga. Who has gone and come back? Huh? Raise your hands. Nobody? Yeah, okay. Good, yeah. Otherwise I would have asked you to come and see me after class, had you raised your hand. So, nobody has gone and come back and remembered to tell the tale. No one has to gone. And then Brahmaloka, who has gone? And then one can say, if I was in Brahmaloka, why would I be here now? I would have already got Krama Mukti. But still, nobody, there are no survivors of Brahmaloka, Swarga, etc. And then forget all these faraway lokas. Let's say the Veda says, the first portion of the Veda says, if you do this ritual, you will get lots of money. And then what does the person say? Let me do this ritual because I want lots of money, let me do this ritual. The ritual is done and then only you know whether it worked or not, correct? Before doing the ritual, you don't expect the money to come. And then the Shraddha is total because you don't know whether it will work or not. And it also says that even if one of the bricks is cracked, if the right thing was not offered, if the wrong thing was put, then the results will not come. That also it says. And so therefore, the first portion of the Veda is total blind trust. Second portion of the Veda, Shraddha is slightly different, trust pending understanding. Because what you are trusting, you already are, whose knowledge you will get if you have this aforementioned trust. So it's a conditional trust, contingent upon gaining this, and the proof of the trust is in the proof of your stopping complaining. When you stop complaining, what are you? Brahman. Ah, yes, I got this knowledge. And so like this, the Shraddha differs slightly between the first and the second portion of the Veda, because in the first portion of the Veda, the object, it is the Shraddha is centered around objects, and therefore it is iffy whether it will happen or not, how the object will behave, how the other person will behave, I don't know. In the second and the last portion of the Veda, the Shraddha is centered around I, the subject. And I already being Brahman, it is a trust pending understanding. So, with that difference, we can see the verse, not by all these things you can get Brahman, na vacha, na manasa, praptum shakyaha, naiva vacha praptum shakyaha. We have to add like this, na manasa praptum shakyaha, na chakshusha praptum shakyaha. There is only economy of words, one praptum shakyaha for all of them. So, but we can repeat in all of them, na praptum shakyaha. What? Brahma. Kim na praptum shakyaha? Brahma. Atma, Brahmatma. Na praptum shakyaha. Then how, who gets it? It says no one gets it. Who, other than one person, nobody gets it. Who gets it? Asti iti bruvataha. Bruvataha saying, believing, understanding. Asti. What asti? Brahma asti. What is the vision? Brahma asmi. Me means me. Okay, yeah. That's why it's called asmi. Alright. So, Brahma asmi. So, Brahma asti means what? Brahman exists, Brahman is there. And then Brahma asmi means that, that Brahman is me. That's what asmi. So asti has to be converted to asmi, but even if that doesn't happen immediately, if I am just saying Brahma asti, Brahma asti, Brahma asti, Brahma Jnanam will take place, will definitely take place. Why? Because the same idea is given in another Upanishad. Asanne vasa bhavati, asad brahmeti veda chet, asti brahmeti chet veda, santame nantato viduriti. Asateva sabhavati. The person himself, herself becomes non-existent. Why? If you deny the existence of Brahman, what is Brahman? You. It's a rank form of self-denial. Whereas, if you say Brahma asti, from asti to asmi, it does not take a very long time. Asti Brahma ched veda santam enam tataha viduhu. That person is a Mahatma. Know that person to be like a Mahatma. An enlightened person who says Asti Brahma, Asmi Brahma. And so here the same thing is talked about. Asti iti bruvataha anyat. Anyat means other than. Asti iti bruvataha anyat. Other than the one who says Asti, katham tadupalabhyate. How can it be gained by somebody who says other than Asti? If you don't say Asti, what will you say? Nasti. Simple. Because there is no other thing. You won't say 1/4 Asti, 1/8 Asti. Why? Because it is Nirvikaram Brahma, Nirgunam Brahma, Advayam Brahma. So it cannot be cut up into pieces. And it doesn't have any other attributes. So you can't say, I know half of Brahman. Why? Because out of the 3-month course, 1.5 months are over. So I know half of Brahman. Next month I will know 2/3 of Brahman. And when I leave, I will know a whole of Brahman. You can't say that. Because this Brahman that you know is not like chapter 1, chapter 2 of some kind of book. Science book, chapter 1, what are the elements? Chapter 2, then how do all these things function? We don't have that here. It cannot be, because what we are talking about is not subject to what? Any fractions, not subject to parts. So, asti iti bruvataha anyatra, anyat na katham, katham tad upalabhyate, na upalabhyate ityarthaha. It is a rhetorical question. So, if you say no, it does not exist, how will you get it? If you say no, it does not exist, and if you are it, how will you understand it? Meaning, you will not understand it at all. So, asti means is. Asti is. Brahman is. Because everything that is there in the world, pot is. This pot is. It was about to become crackpot. Crackpot is. Flower is. Another flower is. Lid is. Is. Even when I say nasti, let's say I lose the glasses, nasti. Upanetram, nasti. And what is the word inside nasti? Asti. Nasti here means it's not here in this place, and in this form it is not here. Not here also means what? It is not, means I still use the word is. So is the word of the day, and if you spell Ishvara in English, what are the first 2 letters? Is. Is. Asti iti upalabhyate, asti iti upalabhyate. It's always understood as what? Is. Not is. Not is means what is not and where it is not. It's a very conditional not is. No, the truth of the world is not is. Nothing is there. Who is saying? Me, the great. Are you existent or not? What will you say? Yes. Or if you are a Mandu, you will say no. If you are a total thing, you will say absolutely not. I don't exist. Then you can't do anything. Like that person who had some kind of a syndrome, and he thought he was dead. He just, he would lie down like this, and he would say, I'm dead. And all of his friends, his brothers, sisters, everybody would say, you're crazy, you're alive. Look, there are movements, you are moving. Means nothing. Yeah. And then dead people do not move. Yeah, sometimes they move because there are some release of gases and all in the body. Sometimes they move. I'm dead. I'm moving. Dead people don't talk. Well, this one does. And then what are you going to say to such a person? And then finally the friend got fed up, took one pin and pricked his finger and pressed and showed, see, you are bleeding. Dead people, you're not dead. This doesn't mean anything. This means dead people also bleed. That's all it means. So if you are this kind of a thinker, then these verses will not help you. Yeah, these verses will not help you, the next two verses. If you are ready to change, if you really want this knowledge, you have to show it in the form of receptivity. And receptivity is trust. And trust, like how you trust, when you were small, you trusted your parents. Mother said, I am your mother. You didn't say, how can you tell you are my mother? I didn't see you giving birth to me. Yeah. You don't argue with that. You say, okay, she must be mother because she's saying it. And Shruti is like what? Sahasra matrebhyaha hitaishini. More functional, more beneficial, more compassionate than 1,000 loving mothers. And the Shruti will not lie to you. Because what is the motive of Shruti lying to you? Because sometimes people can think all this might be a spoof. Because the next door ashram, it is Nastivada. It is Buddhist ashram. And it's all empty, empty, empty. Shunya, shunya, shunya. And here it is what? Asti, asti, asti. And Ananda, Ananda, Ananda. So there, how do you know? This is not some kind of an organized spoof. Swami Dayananda ashram is engaged in an organized bluff, meaning everybody is in on it. And all the unsuspecting people who come into the 3-month course are caught hold of, dipped in white and put there. Put there and told, just listen, be receptive because asti, asti, asti. What if it is really nasty? OMG, then I have wasted my life, I am wasting my time here because what if it is nasty? Here you have to use your brains because who is the one who is saying nasty? Who is the one who is saying nasty? Buddhi. Your own buddhi is cognizing the absence of something somewhere at some point in time. But the buddhi cannot cognize the absence of everything everywhere at all times, because if it were to cognize that, that means what? Buddhi itself is not there, because if nothing is there, why will buddhi be there to cognize that there is nothing? The cognizer of nothing, if that cognizer of nothing is nothing, how can nothing be cognized? Can nothing be cognized? Never. Nothing can never be cognized. So that means there is something there. And that something is I, and the Shruti Pramana tells me that this something is what? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. So therefore, I am existent is not in question. What is my nature? My nature as Brahman is dependent upon the knowledge of the Shruti. Bhashya. Very beautiful Bhashya. Naiva vacha, na manasa, na chakshusha, na anyaihi api, indriyaihi, praptum shakyate, ityartha. That's the only straightforward sentence you will get, okay? Yeah, enjoy it while you can. Na eva vacha, not by speech. na eva manasa, not even by the mind, na chakshusha, not by the eyes, and not by any other indriyas, na anyaihi api indriyaihi, not even by any other organ of knowledge, indriyas, sense organs, praptum shakyate, praptum to gain, shakyate is possible. That is the drift of the first line. तथापि सर्वविशेष रहितोपि जगतः मूलम् इति अवगतत्वात् अस्ति एव कार्यप्रविलापनस्य अस्तित्व nishthatvat. Yeah, I told you, no, enjoy the first line, because the whole bhashya will be like this from henceforward for the rest of the verse. Yeah. So still, what else is there? Tathapi. Tathapi means even though it cannot be got by mind, speech, etc., even though it is devoid of all attributes, because it is the basis of all attributes, you cannot say it does not exist. You cannot say it does not exist. And then why? Because sarva vishesha rahitopi, even though it is devoid of all attributes, jagataha moolam iti avagatatvat asti iti eva upalabhyate. Because sarva vishesha rahitaha api, even though it's devoid or free of all attributes, it meaning Atma, then it is what? Jagataha moolam. It is the cause of the universe. Why does he use the word moolam? Urdhva moolam, from the verse number 1. What number are we on? 12. So from verse number 1 he remembers, we don't remember, that moolam which was established as Brahman in this example of the upside down priorities represented by the tree of samsara. So this jagataha moolam iti avagatatvat asti eva, asti eva. So even though it's devoid of all attribute, being known as the truth of the entire jagat, you cannot say it does not exist. Why? Because for the effects to resolve. So here again karya karana prakriya is deployed. So karya pravilapanasya astitva nishthatvat. So in karya karana prakriya, what do we say? What is this? Pot. And then what is the truth of pot? Clay. Pot is effect, clay is cause. So when I see the pot as not pot but clay, what am I doing? Resolving the body mind sense complex of the pot into clay. In other words, resolving the effect into the cause. To put it in Sanskrit, resolving the karya into karana. Karya is karana ananyaha. So the karya is non-separate from karana. Effect is non-separate from cause. Ornament is non-separate from gold. Pot is non-separate from clay. So this we have become experts in saying, Adi Shankara says, but what you don't know is a very important fact. What is it that you don't know? Because in order to resolve all the effects, there should be a basis for that resolution. Correct? So where will I resolve the ornament? Yeah. Suppose gold is non-existent, where will I resolve the ornament? Where? There is no gold, meaning there is no cause. Where will I resolve it? Not possible to resolve. So therefore, because this resolution is possible, even in our worldly example, pot, clay, gold, ornament, iron and nail cutter, all these things. This nail cutter example comes in Shvetaketu, 6th chapter of Chandogya. So we know that the nail cutter is a very handy and ancient instrument. Nakha Nikrantanam, nail cutter. So The nail cutter resolves into steel or iron, and the pot resolves into clay, and then ornament resolves into the metal, gold, silver, whatever. That means what? Clay is existent or not? Yes. Gold is existent or not? Yes. And then what was the third example? Nail cutter. Is the steel existent or not? Yes. So to resolve also you need a basis. You need an adhisthana for the resolution. No, you got it all wrong. Because if you say fabric resolves into shirt, the shirt resolves into fabric, then the fabric also resolves into what? Yarn. Yarn resolves into fibers. Fibers resolves into cotton. Cotton resolves into cotton tree. Cotton tree resolves into cotton seed. And then we can have a nice happy go round. Yeah, not merry-go-round, a sad go-round, because tree, seed will be going like that whole lifetime. So you can say the people who will be again, this is the Purva Paksha warning. So the Purva Pakshin can come here and interrupt and say the following. Why? Because we need to learn how to think like the Purva Pakshi. The Purva Pakshi can say, wait a minute, your shirt that you gave as an example, which is non-separate from fabric, fabric is the basis, fabric is the adhisthana, but then what is the adhyaropa? Shirt. But then the fabric itself is an effect. Why? Because yarn is the cause. Like this, everything has a cause endlessly. So therefore, there is no ultimate cause. You can't even say that. Why? Because the causality itself is a superimposition upon that Brahman which is free of causality. So whether it's a local cause like shirt, fabric, pot, clay, etc., or whether it's a ultimate cause, without cause you cannot do any kind of a pralaya. Pravilapa is not there. Karya pravilapa, if it is there, then even by a regular anumana you can say the karya goes where? In the karana. So the karya of local things goes into the local karana. The karya of the whole, the whole jagat as karya goes into jagat karana, resolves into jagat karana. So that means if nail cutter is there, that means steel is there. If the ornament is there, that means gold is there. If pot is there, that means what? Clay is there. And this clay, this gold, how is it obtained? Is it obtained as asti or nasti? Asti. So this is one argument he gives. This itself should have been enough. But he goes on and on. Okay? Let's see what he says. So asti iti nishthatvat. Nishtha means you have a commitment to that asti. Because the karya pravilapa goes where? Into the karana. So the karana of everything is Brahman. That cannot be denied. The home of every asti ultimately is what? Brahman. All the astis go and join Brahman. Tathahi idam karyam सूक्ष्म तारतम्य पारंपर्येण अनुगम्यमानं सद्बुद्धिनिष्ठाम् एव avagamayati. Yeah. So then he gives one more prakriya. What was the first prakriya we used? Karya Karana Prakriya. First methodology, cause-effect methodology. So what is the hallmark of the cause-effect methodology? So the cause inheres the effect, point 1. Point 2, therefore the effect is not separate from the cause. You resolve the name and form called cause, called effect into the cause. So the cause doesn't resolve, but the effect resolves as the cause into the cause. This is Karya Karana Prakriya. Now he advises one more Prakriya. So, seen this way also, something asti iti upalabhyate. Let us see. So, what does he say? Tatha hi idam karyam. So similarly, tathahi means in the same manner, idam karyam, this effect, when it is traced back to the cause. So before what did we say? We say that even though Brahman has, we are looking at the cause from the standpoint of Brahman. Even though Brahman has no attributes, there is a adhyaropita causality, that is what we are seeing. Now we go from the vastu. How? Sukshma taratamya paramparyena, through the methodology of sukshma, more pervasive, more interior, and what else? More vyapaka. No, more vyapaka we did. More subtle. So let's do that. Let's do it this way now. Before we went from Brahman to the thing and to the Jagat and said Brahma asti, therefore Jagat asti. Now let us go to the things in the Jagat and then keep on going to the subtler and subtler things. And then what do we get? Same Brahman you get. So even if you go, how do you go? Sukshma taratamya. Taratamya means comparison. Tara plus tamap, taratama, and then taratamayoho bhavaha. What is that? Taratamya. And one more, tadhita paramparyena. Paramparyena means you trace back from not guru to shishya, shishya to guru. So you trace back from karya to karana, karya to karana, karya to karana. Like this you trace back, and with the same logic, that which is more subtle, more pervasive, like that, more interior, with that logic you trace back. And then what happens? You get the same, you cannot understand this as any other way. Why? Because you only have Sadbuddhi. I already knew I had Sadbuddhi. Sad means very good Buddhi. Sadbuddhi, no. Sadbuddhi means the Buddhi that says is. The Buddhi that cognizes the is called Sadbuddhi. The Buddhi that reveals the is called Sadbuddhi. So this Sadbuddhi is what? In this Sadbuddhi, the Nishtha, what? Asthi Nishtha, Sadnishtha. Sannishtham eva avagamayati. So when you say this exists because something else exists, you take it back, which leads to what? Something that is ultimately existent. It does not lead back to non-existence. Cannot lead back to non-existence. Why? Because the declarer of the fact that everything is non-existent is what? Existent. So this way also, you go from Brahman down to the Karya, what do you get? Asti. And you go from the Karya up to Brahman, then what do you get? Same Asti. Either way you operate the Prakriya, what do you get? Brahmanaha Astitvam. So then, so therefore what? Tasmat Jagataha Moolam Atma Asti iti eva Upalabdhavyam. Yeah. So therefore the Atma, even though you don't understand it and cannot see it and cannot objectify it, must be understood as existent. Atma asti, Brahma asti. But I don't know it as asmi. Doesn't matter. Right now you know it as what? Asti. And that is more than enough. Because Brahma asti to Brahma asmi does not take any time. So therefore what happens? This Atma, what is this Atma? Jagataha Moolam Atma Asti iti eva Upalabdhavyam. Please come to the correct conclusion. Do not say Nasti. And how to come to the correct conclusion? Shraddhadhanat Anyatra Nastikavadini. Yeah, so the one who has no receptivity, no trust in the form of this Shraddha, Shraddhadanat Anyatra, other than the one who has Shraddha. Who is that? In the person who is Nastikavadin. Tasmin Nastikavadini. What happened? I skipped something? Oh, yes, yes. I skipped 2 lines. Sorry about that. Yeah, everybody was looking lost. I just thought this is usual. Yeah, no. so, yeah. Yada api Vishaya Pravilapanena Pravilapyamana buddhi Tadapi Sa Satpratyaya Garbha Eva Viliyate. Yeah, very important point. I'm glad that we are doing this because I thought, yeah, I also thought in the argument something is not there. Yeah. So this is what it is. So here what is it says? Yada yadyapi. So even though even when the intellect which is responsible for objectifying the objects of perception is resolved, when in the last 2 mantras, in nididhyasana, samadhi, etc. How does it get resolved? Does it get resolved as asti or does it get resolved as nasti? Very interesting $1 million question. Okay, yeah. Whoever has $1 million, answer it. So, asti, asti only it has to get resolved, because who is the one who is conscious of the buddhi was resolved? I. So the buddhi is now come out of resolution. Who is conscious? I. I have gone into samadhi. The one who says has already come out of samadhi, but never mind that. So the one who says I had gone into samadhi, my buddhi was resolved. Who says that? The one that is the witness of the, in hindsight, the resolution of that buddhi. And then when the person says I came out of samadhi, then the person is the witness of the buddhi coming out of resolution. So whether the buddhi resolves or comes out of resolution, either way, she, the buddhi, sa, what is that? She is pregnant. She is pregnant with what? Asti. She is pregnant with asti, sat buddhi. Sat buddhi is there. Very beautifully it is put here. So, where were we now? Yeah. Yadyapi Vishaya Pravilapena Pravilapyamana buddhihi. So, this buddhi is subject to pravilapanam, is subject to resolution when Vishaya Pravilapena, when the Vishayas are resolved through this karya karana prakriya in the waking state or in the meditation state through the taming of the indriyas and the mind, as we saw. Vishaya Pravilapena, when the Vishayas come to rest, then the buddhi which is looking at the Vishayas also comes to rest. But how? How does the buddhi come to rest? How does the buddhi viliyate? Sa satpratyaya garbha eva, satpratyaya garbhita eva viliyate. It resolves as is. Buddhi is. Non-cognition of the buddhi is. Resolution of the buddhi is. Welcome back of the buddhi is. Now the buddhi is. Then the buddhi was not, but what is that? Is. Who is saying was not? The one that is. So this buddhi is pregnant with isness. Now we have to look at the concept of isness. What is the is? You make it into a what is that? You make it into an abstract noun, isness. Astitvam, isness. And that isness does not belong to the object, but belongs to the subject. So everything is, flower is, pot is, thought is, mat, cat, hat, rat, all of them is. But the isness belongs to something other than the object, because the object resolves and the isness continues. Like you take a flower, for example, and what do you say? Flower is. Aromatic flower is. And then if I keep holding, then what do you have? Wilted flower is. And all the petals are gone. Withered flower is. And then what happens? That those petals nourish the next flower bush, which is. Another bush is. Another flower is. Is doesn't go away at all, because the isness does not belong to the object. Then what happens? The isness is borrowed by the object, interest free, rent free borrowing. Yes, it's temporarily borrowed by the object, and it shines as is independently, fooling everybody. And then what? If the isness drops out of it, that means the name and form also goes away. The name and form is dependent on isness. Isness is free of name and form. Isness, knowingness, and then limitlessness. Sat Chit Ananda. Like the story of the crow gate crashing a peacock convention. How many times have you heard this story? Many times. So that is how it is. So it is shining in borrowed feathers. The feathers are not its own. One feather it took, its name is. Another feather it took, Bha, I am, I shine, Ahamasmi, Sadabhami. And the third feather, I am Ananda. All three feathers belong to what? Crow, which is Brahman. No, peacock.
You didn't tell the story this course.
Are you sure?
You said the last two courses.
Oh. Peacock, annual peacock convention. Peacocks are having a wonderful time. They are dancing and everything. And one sad little crow comes around. He says, I also want to attend. Tries to go in. There is one bouncer peacock. Yeah. Hey, you're not a peacock. Get out of here. Crow is very sad, walks away. But really is in love with this peacock convention, goes around the perimeter and just looks longingly at all of them inside, and then sees that as they are dancing, feathers are dropping. Idea. Takes 3 feathers, Sat, Chit, Ananda. I'm giving away the story because everybody knows it. Puts it on, and then what? Walks into the peacock convention anew. The bouncer is confused. Bouncer says, I think I have seen you before. But the bouncer just has had diversity training. Yeah. Don't body shame the peacocks. Yeah. Peacocks come in all different shapes and sizes. Accept everybody. Okay, go. Do you need water? Do you need tea? Are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. So the crow also goes in, and it's all, the peacocks dance gracefully. The crow dances with 2 left feet, but somehow dances. And then it has to dance carefully. Why? Because it's just stuck there. It has just put it there with 1 foot. It has just stuck the things there. Very precarious. But then it forgets itself. Who can blame it? Because everybody is having a good time. It just dances joyously. And then what happens? Sat feather comes off, Chit feather comes off, Ananda feather comes off. And the crow is what? Just name and form. Name and form, booted and pecked out of the convention. So that is how it is. We are all strutting around in borrowed feathers, borrowed by the Jiva, borrowed from Brahman. So in the Brahman feathers we are shining, we are looking nice, we are just animated, everything is just wonderful, because this name and form is animated by the undeniable existence of Brahman. Undeniable. So the name and form borrows the isness. So all the isness that shines in the universe with the name and with the form is what kind of isness? Borrowed isness. Oh, but I want my own isness. Stupid. You are the isness that you want. No, but can I see the isness without name and form? No. Why? Because it is you. Okay, so I am going to say it is na asti, it is nasti. You cannot say that. Why? Because it is asti. When you say that itself, you are caught. So saying, so therefore, so the buddhi viliyate, all right. The buddhi is resolved in samadhi, but as the buddhi is resolved, what remains? Sat remains. The buddhi gives back, as it were, its isness that it has borrowed, and just like when you sleep, you give back all the karanas give back their isness to Atma. Atma is holding on to that isness, and as you wake up, the isness is borrowed again by the karanas, by the indriyas. Very, very nice. So, buddhirhinaha pramanam sad asatoho yathatmya avagame. Sad asatoho yathatmya avagame. So in the cognition of whether something is there or not there, buddhi is our sole pramana. Buddhi is our sole pramana. That's how we come to know. Something is or not, is not. How do we come to know? Because of the buddhi. Naha means asmakam, our pramana. Buddhi is the sole pramana for what? For knowing the existence or the non-existence of something. So, for us, the buddhi is the authority. Here, pramana doesn't mean means of knowledge. Here, it means its authority. Buddhi is the prime authority in understanding the nature of existence and non-existence. When the buddhi is told, you are satyam jnanam anantam brahma, you are the truth of everything that exists, it understands, it comprehends. And then one more thing he says, what else does he say? Moolam chet jagatah nasyat. So supposing there was no Brahman, the karanam of Jagat was not there. The Brahma karanam, which is moolam, that which is moolasthaniam, that which is in the place of the root of the samsara tree, which is what? The Brahman. That, let's say, is not there. If the universe had no Brahman, and then what would happen? A very funny thing would take place. He is explaining that now. So, nasyad asad anvitameva idam karyam asad ityevam grihyate. Asad ityevam grihyate. So, supposing there was no Brahman, and then everything was what? Asat, 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 and all the effects were called what? Non-existent, 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 non-existent. If everything was non-existent, then what would we be? How would we be greeting each other? Hello, non-existent people. We would be greeting each other because because there is nothing there. There is no existence at all. Everything is non-existent. Nasti, nasti, nasti iti upalabhyate. So then I would see you and say, oh my God, empty class, nobody is there. But I can't even say empty class, nobody is there, because emptiness, asti. You see, you can't really comprehend anything. You can't have vyavahara. If the Jagat did not have Brahman as its root cause, then nothing would be existent. Nothing would be existent. Everything would be non-existent. Then how will Vyavahara take place? How will you come to class? You will come to the non-existent person comes to the non-existent class with the non-existent book. And for the non-existent satsang with non-existent questions, come to the non-existent class with a non-existent teacher, with a non-existent enquiry, because there is no enquiry. Asti nava, there is no enquiry, because it is concluded as what? Nasti. So there is no vyavahara possible. This is one more reason. 3-4 reasons are there. In the tomorrow's class we will summarize all of them. So 3-4 reasons he gives why everything asti iti upalabhyate. So everything would be nasti. So what is that? Grihyate. Natu etad asti. But that is not the case. Sadasat iti evatu grihyate. Sat sat ityevatu grihyate. Everything is grasped by the buddhi as what? Is. This is, that is, class is, classroom is, teacher is, student is, fan is, light is, book is, another student sitting next to me is. You don't say is not, is not, is not. The is not also reveals what? The existence of I as is. So everything is grasped as is. And then he says, yatha mridadikaryam ghatadi mridadi anvitam. Yeah. So just like the earthenware world has its basis where? In clay. Similarly, the entire world has its basis in Sat alone. Sat alone is the basis. No other thing can be the basis at all. We'll just conclude this part. One more sentence we'll read. Tasmat jagatah moolam atma asti iti eva upalabdhavyam. So therefore, the truth of the Jagat, if the Jagat itself cannot be denied, how can its truth be denied? This much you have to understand. If the Jagat cannot be denied, the truth of the Jagat cannot be denied, and the truth of the Jagat is the resting place of the Asti, which is I, which is Brahman. So therefore everything should be grasped as Asti, and we do grasp everything as Asti, Asti, Asti. And why do you make an exception where Brahman comes? Everything asti, asti, asti iti upalabhyate. Everything is grasped as asti except Brahman. How can you make that distinction? This is what Bhashya says. You be fair. If everything is nasti, then Brahman is also what? Nasti. But you can't say everything is nasti because you are very much there and everything is very much there. So therefore, what do you end up saying? You end up ratifying the existence of every single karya in the Jagat. Why do you deny the karana? Why do you deny even the possibility of the cause when you are always ratifying the effect, when you are dealing with the effect all the time? Why do you forget the cause is the source of all the astis, where all the astis, where all the feathers of all the crows parading as peacocks come to rest? That is what is Brahman. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari